What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome back to The Cure once again. Today we are going to be talking about the new short little piece of work from the ex-Brockhampton member Ameer Vann titled Emmanuel. For those of you who are uninformed, Ameer Vann is one of the founding members of Brockhampton. I believe he was childhood friends with Kevin Abstract and a lot of other members. He was actually kicked out though last year over various different allegations surrounding sexual assault, verbal abuse, and things like that. That being said, we do get a lot from Ameer on this album about, his side of the story, his thoughts, his opinions, and I think it's pretty safe to say that he is, guilty, or at least feels guilty, although he's still probably not on the best of terms with the other members of Brockhampton. Now, Ameer was definitely the deepest, one of the more prevalent voices in Brockhampton, someone you could always identify very easily. When they started rapping, he had a very traditional flow, great bars, and a great voice for rap. His lyrics were filled with a lot of adult, violent, drug-related themes. You could tell that he had a difficult upbringing and was maybe not in the best of places himself when they were recording all of their original music. And those lyrics persist on this album as well. And after listening to this little piece of work, I think it's safe to say, and this probably goes for almost all of the members of Brockhampton, that they are definitely better as a sum of their parts. Listening to 6 tracks, even if it is just 6 tracks, of Ameer barring by himself is not quite, definitely not as entertaining as going through a Brockhampton album and not being prepared for what voices you're going to hear, lyrical or production styles or things like that. So while this little piece of work still does feature some great bars from Ameer and those same angry, aggressive lyrics, he's on every second of every song. So the variety and the diversity of those tracks is obviously not there like it normally would be in a group setting. These songs really lack a lot of production content and are filled mostly with, a lyrical venting about his problems, his struggles, his dreams and aspirations of recovering from, these setbacks. So that being said, this thing is only 6 tracks. A couple of them are very short as well, and every single one of them just features Ameer. So there is some diversity in how he sets up these tracks, maybe their intensity, their speed, things like that. But for the most part, we get heavy Ameer bars on every track. Some of them are a little more serious than others. Some of them are a little more upbeat than others. But it's what you would expect. So our first track is a great example of a very lyrically based song. There's hardly any production here whatsoever. It has a very heavy sub that pretty much carries the track, and on top of that, Ameer is almost just talking about this past year of his life, recovering from what happened last year, the mistakes he's made, the growth he's made. He expresses the fact that he knows this is a shot at resurrection for him, that he has to handle his apology correctly, his coming back into the media correctly, and this is very much an intro in that way. Next up is Pop Trunk, which is not too bad of a track. It's fairly typical as far as rap goes. This song is a lot more relaxed and has some nice little reverberated keys on it. Ameer is a lot more connected, a lot more collected, and a lot more in tune with his new identity, his new place in life. I think this has a much more positive outlook on it. But it is still very traditional as far as a rap song goes. There's a nice outro where he really drops the pitch on his vocals quite a bit. It's a sweet little ride out. But I think that's the most creative part of the track. It's a nice beat. There's some nice laid back lyrics. But yeah. Next up, we've got an even heavier track, still fairly traditional in that rap sphere, but Ameer starts to bar a little bit more. We have a little bit more of a complex instrumental. This song is certainly more aggressive, and we have a lot of almost random high-pitched synths, a high-pitched melody that runs throughout the verses and occasionally on the hook as well. But most importantly, I think this track has the most memorable and easy to get along with hook that we've heard so far. You can probably get this thing down on your first listen or so, which will bring you back to this song quite a bit just because it is familiar in that way, and Ameer has some nice bars in it as well. Like I said, they're a little bit more aggressive, so it's a good hybrid of the first 2 tracks. Los Angeles takes us back to the vibe of the first song again, with a very lyrically based song, although this does have some more production value here. We've got, again, a really heavy sub that runs throughout, but then we have some cool ambient noises as well, a very light melody that runs throughout this track, although it certainly doesn't carry it. Ameer is definitely still responsible for most of the content of the song. And this song is very dark once again. It takes a storytelling role on this piece of work, and I think Ameer gives us some of the most explicit information about the Brockhampton breakup that we've heard so far. Los Angeles in this song is effectively Ameer's enemy. You know, it's the place where he took his demons, he lost his friends, he found success and lost that as well. He says explicitly that he lost his friends in Los Angeles, and I think that's a major aspect of their story, how their fame impacted all of their friendships. That's clearly still gripping him today. I like this song a bit more than the first track. I think the instrumental is pretty nice, and I think there are some pretty heavy lyrics here that really make you think a little bit more, especially if you're in on the whole Brockhampton scenario, and I like that, at least for the informed listener. Saturday Night is probably my favorite track on the album, at least from a traditional rap standpoint. You know, I like these storytelling pieces as well from him, but I think this song is put together very well, very effectively. We've got a great instrumental on here, you know, another very memorable, catchy hook from Ameer, and some great bars to match as well. This song is upbeat and trappy once again, a step above Glock 19 in fact. And Ameer features probably his best and fastest bars on the album on this track. They're collected once again. He takes his problems out of the scenario and really focuses on the music this time. Last up we have Plastic. This is a eerie little finisher, a pretty short track that is led by very periodic keys that really make you lose track of time. There's really no hook on here, a very long verse from Ameer, effectively a run-on sentence, and we just get a lot of finishing thoughts about a lot of the concepts on this album. We're presented with probably some more questions than answers, but I think this is an interesting closer. I think this is a mysterious little piece of work from Ameer, and I wouldn't have expected it to have been any other way from him. So overall, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of this review, I don't think Ameer is as good of an artist by himself as Brockhampton is as a group, but I think that maybe obvious to many of us. There's a ton of variety in their music, and it's impossible to replicate that kind of variety by yourself. Although I think Ameer has a great voice, I think he's a great rapper. I don't know if he was very much involved with the production or anything on this, but I do like some of the production on this album as well. I think a lot of it's pretty simple and stripped back, but there are some cool sounds here and there. As far as variety goes, I think we have two different types of tracks in this album. We have, you know, the traditional rap songs with a more upbeat instrumental, better bars, and then we have these slower, eerier storytelling-like tracks where Ameer is, you know, confessing to things and being angry about things. And I think those are two different tracks, but those are the only two we get on this album. They kind of switch back and forth, so the variety's all right. And beyond that, you know, the two song formulas on this album are certainly not unique in any way. You know, the traditional rap tracks are traditional at best, and you know, the creativity is certainly lacking here. It'll be good to see if Ameer gets as creative as Brockhampton is and used to be with his own music. Finally, there's just obviously not a lot of content, only 6 tracks, and a few of them are pretty short, so hopefully we'll hear more from Ameer soon. Maybe he has a game plan for the future with his music. And it'll just be interesting to see what he does. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I recommend you check out this little album if you've got 20 minutes on your hands. If you like Ameer, if you used to like Ameer, or if you like Brockhampton, I think it's interesting to hear this music regardless. But it does leave something to be desired from Ameer. I think it's possible for a member to certainly be creative in their own right. I think Kevin put a really good album together on his own this year, so I think it certainly is possible. It's just really about that creativity and coming up with, you know, new ideas that you can accomplish with just your own voice. Although it was good to hear Ameer barring once again. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next week with the next review.